All right, sorry, I got interrupted by one of my students, but we'll continue with theatrical conventions. Convention is the idea that there is a contract between the audience and the actors on stage, that we are in a theater telling a story. We talked about this a few times now in this module. There are certain acts, there are certain parts of theater that make it theatrical. We all must suspend reality in order to go into a play. So theatrical conventions are basically that we're in the same space as actors pretending to be wherever they're pretending to be. In Romeo and Juliet, they're pretending to be in Verona in the 17th century, and and we know that they're not. And somebody, even down to the minute, that Romeo is Romeo and Juliet is Juliet, even though we know that they're not. They're actors playing that role, right? So that's what a theatrical convention is. Now we'll also talk about the actors pretend the audience isn't there, that they're just alive on stage. We all pretended that we were in another place, another time period. There are scenic conventions as well. Imagine that on the set, as yellow circle on the upper front part of the set represents the sun, right? We all know that it's not the real sun, but we see that it's the sun. We go with that convention. It's a very theatrical thing. A camera, for television or film, can pan up to a shot of the sun, whereas on stage you can't do that, right? So there is a convention in theater that's the sun. So when they talk about how bright it is or whatever, you see that's there. Another simple one is that a door on stage leads to either, let's say, another room or to outside, even though we know that it just leads to backstage, right? So sets aren't real, but we go with the convention that they take us to other places. Acting conventions, there's many of those. A dialect or an accent, if you're doing a British accent, we know this guy is from Texas, but he's speaking with a British accent. That's a convention that we go with. We don't go, no, he's not. We go, oh, he's a British character, right? Talking to the audience, if there's direct address, a lot of Shakespeare has soliloquies, a lot of modern plays talk to the audience. We know that that in real life we don't have an audience right there that we talk to. That we just live in the world. We, in our minds, maybe talk to ourselves like there's an audience, but there's not one. So it's another theatrical convention, acting a style of a different time period. If you're watching Elizabethan or something from the 70s, even if we know people aren't from the 70s, what Stranger Things takes place in the 80s, right? So, and Stranger Things, we know that they've shot it in the last 7 years, at least from season 1 to now. It doesn't take place in that time period. And musicals, characters sing. A lot of us don't sing in real life, just on an everyday basis when we're trying to express things. Some of us do. So when we're thinking about conventions and analyzing a performance that we just watched, are the conventions clear? That's what's important. Are all these things clear? Do the conventions seem aimed at promoting the view that the onstage world is real life, or that the world, is the world less specific? And do they aim to call attention to the differences between the stage and real life, theatricality? So this, as you can see, this is from a play called How I Learned to Drive. Very abstract. You can see a road that goes up. There's no cars on it. She's driving, right? But she's not in a car. But the convention is that you can see her foot on the gas or the brake. You see she's hands on the steering wheel. The convention is that she's driving, even though we know she's not. There's a guy sitting in the quote-unquote back seat, although we see that he's just sitting in a chair, right? But we go with it. It's a theatrical convention. This is in costume design. We see here that she is from, this picture was taken 2 years ago, so she's definitely not Elizabethan. She's not the queen either. She's just an actor, but we go with the convention that she's that. And then something you might know, Hamilton, right? We know that Lin-Manuel Miranda isn't really Alexander Hamilton, but we go with the convention that he is. We know all these actors are from 2014, or rather 16 to now. So, they could have been from 8 years ago, or could have been this year. This picture was taken. It was 8 years ago. But they're all wearing very specific costumes and boots and things that evoke the 18th century. We go with the convention that they're there. We see the lights. We see muskets. We know that those guns don't work, but we believe they do, etc., etc. Now we watch 2 videos. Take all of these things into account. costumes, lights, set, the actors' choices, all the different theatrical conventions that are done on stage that you do compared to on television and film.